Ko reikia, kad verslas augtų greičiau? Aiškiai girdėti savo klientus, turėti tinkamus įrankius darbui, ir laiku užtikrinti reikiamus resursus. O gal svarbiausia, kad jums nereikėtų tuo rūpintis? Palikite tai mums. Mes pasirūpinsime jūsų ryšio, darbo vietos ir IT sprendimais. Susisiekime. Telia, kad verslas augtų greičiau.
Hello and welcome to the Dream to Drive Championship, the fourth round of the semi-finals. 100 fastest drivers qualified to fight for the top 6 places to advance to the finals. They are divided into 4 separate divisions and race each other in door-to-door battles. The type of race evening, the car and the track are announced only 1 week before the actual event, leaving just enough time for practice. The semi-finals consist of 6 rounds in total, but only 5 best round results count in the overall standings. The finalists will challenge each other in real-life tests for the main prize, a seat in the Dream to Drive team. Karolis Jovaiša took all 3 previous race wins, but several drivers are looking for the first win in this battle as we head over to the Baltic States, a track located in Latvia, the Bikernieki Complex Sports Base. It is located in the Bikernieku forest in Riga and opened in 1966. The main course is 3 km 662 meters long and has 13 corners in total. The lap record is 1 minute 17 seconds and 100,000 of a second. Appropriate machinery was chosen to match the flow of the Latvian racetrack, the BMW E30 Group A from the late 80s. Clutch-operated manual gearbox, no traction control or ABS to handle the 290 horsepower. With a weight of 945 kilograms, it is capable to achieve 100 kilometers in less than 4.5 seconds. A 15-minute qualifying session will be followed by a 20-minute sprint race. Let's take a quick look at the championship standings before we head over to the qualifying session. Karolis Jovaiša, who won 3 races in a row, has 75 points. Kamil Pavlovsky finds himself in second place with 36 points in total. Domantas Varnys is currently third, Edvinas Žadeikis fourth, Haroldas Jototas fifth, and Marcin Sviderek, the driver from Poland, is currently sixth. These 6 drivers are ready to fight on the Latvian racetrack to try and get through into the finals. Let's head over to the racetrack where the drivers have already begun their qualifying session. Most of them are on the outlaps, trying to warm up the tires. As you can see, the BMW's E30 Group A cars are sliding around the corners. Justinas Saldukas just completed the second and the slowest corner on the racetrack. He just started his first flying lap, a 15 minutes qualifying session, a pretty short duration of time for the drivers to try and set the peak of the speed in the qualifying session, just to try and start as high as possible. The championship leader crosses the line and sets the provisional pole positions, sets the early pace in the qualifying session. Edvinas Žadeikis tries to stay up with his fellow countryman, is currently second, and Isaac Gillison takes the third place. Let's ride on board with the championship leader Karolis Jovaiša, who is currently on his second flying lap. He's currently a couple of hundredths of a second slower than his fastest lap. He still stays on the racetrack, has just enough fuel for another flying lap, so he will try to complete it in a faster way than he did before. He's currently first. His main rival from Poland, Kamil Pavlovsky, is currently 20th with a lap time disqualified due to the exceeding of track limits. He's still there and he's still trying to run a little bit better and a little bit faster. Through turns 12 and 13 onto the main straight, Karolis Jovaiša exits the final corner and should cross the line, but will not do so. He did not manage to go slightly faster. Edvinas Žadeikis goes a little bit faster than he did before, still stays second, only 900ths of a second behind his main rival Karolis Jovaiša. Isaac Gillison is currently third, and we're still waiting for the lap time of the very fast driver from Poland, Kamil Pavlovsky. Marcin Sviderek, another Polish driver, goes up to the fourth place. Algirdas Sabutis takes the 10th place. We have 25 drivers starting in the first division this evening. There are 14 drivers in the second division. Let's catch another fast driver. Simonas Urbonas is currently sixth, 4 tenths behind Karolis Jovaiša. It's going to be a very difficult and complicated task for the drivers to finish the race, even though the race is only 20 minutes long. The tires on these raw beasts are set to wear out a little bit faster, twice as fast than they would in normal conditions, meaning that the left side, especially the left rear tire, will overheat dramatically, so the drivers should be very careful and try not to slide the car in the corners, just to stay within the perfect tire temperatures throughout the race. Otherwise they will suffer from tire wearing issues and will risk to finish the race at all. We are still missing the time from Kamil Pavlovsky, while Edvinas Žadeikis just started his flying lap. Simonas Urbonas tries to push as hard as possible. You could see the back end stepping out, exiting the second corner, which will not help Simonas Urbonas to go a little bit faster, although these cars are pretty difficult to handle. Cars that came from the late 80s. Have no traction control or ABS. A lot of driver input is necessary, and the driver skills is going to be the main task for the drivers if they want to finish as high as possible. Karolis Jovaiša came here looking for another win. That would be the fourth consecutive win in this round of the Dream to Drive Championship, the semi-finals. But he has some very fast drivers right on his tail, including Edvinas Žadeikis and Kamil Pavlovsky. As mentioned before, Kamil is very fast and he is very hungry for his first win in this championship. Already won a couple of qualifying sessions, still was not lucky enough to win his first race. That might change this evening. Karolis Jovaiša managed to go a little bit faster, but that was not fast enough to try and overtake Kamil Pavlovsky, who took the provisional pole position through the midway of the qualifying session. Justas Perinauskas sets the 30th flying lap and slides out, approaching the second and the slowest corner on the racetrack, which has a very tricky braking zone because the drivers have to go through the small right-hand corner, which is called Pai Ozola, and makes the braking a pretty complicated task. Edvinas Žadeikis, Karolis Jovaiša, Haroldas Jototas just made a mistake. He will be returning to the pit lane to put some fresh rubber on the BMWs and head out back onto the hot Latvian racetrack to try and set another fastest lap. Marius Kurninskas is currently 9th, 9/10 of a second slower than Kamil Pavlovsky. So the fight is repeating itself between Kamil and Karolis Jovaiša. And Kamil was usually the faster driver in the qualifying session, still without a win in this championship. Karolis Jovaiša on his outlap, currently 0.05 of a second slower than Kamil. None of the drivers managed to go faster than 1 minute and 25. I have seen some drivers completing one lap around this track faster than the 1 minute 25 second time barrier, and I'm pretty sure all of the drivers are aiming for this result in this qualifying session, and it's a very important task to do. It's a short race, so the drivers want to start as high as possible to own the chances to finish good in the coming race, which is already the fourth round of the Dream to Drive Championship, the semi-finals. So 3 rounds are completed, 3 rounds still left. Marius Kurninskas up to the 8th place. Juha-Maki Jopi is currently 9th, 7/10 slower than Kamil Pavlovsky, and the slowest driver in this session is Maciej Klus. He's almost 4 seconds slower than the provisional pole sitter Kamil Pavlovsky. Maciej Klus is a driver coming from Poland. Izak Gillison goes a tiny bit faster than he did in the previous qualifying session. Still remains 4th, right in front of Marcin Svidrek, who is currently 5th. Marcin just started his next try around this Latvian Bikernieki racetrack in the qualifying session, where drivers are trying to put all that they have just to set the fastest lap times and win the pole position, to be able to start the race from an as high as possible place. Marcin Svidrek 4/10 slower than Kamil Pavlovsky, currently 5th, trying to nail the corners and hit the apexes, while Juha-Maki Jopi goes 5th fastest. Kamil Pavlovsky just made a mistake on his next attempt to set the fastest lap and the best pace in the qualifying session. He returned to the pit lane, will put some fresh rubber on the BMW and hit the track one more time. Marcin Svidrek approaching the end of the track to set the next flying lap in the qualifying session. The track is constantly evolving, the cars are leaving some rubber on the ideal line, making it a little bit faster, so we might see some better lap times towards the very end of the qualifying session. Martin Svidrek just started his first his next fast flying lap, approaching the second corner. You can see the car willing to step out. The back end is very loose and the drivers are fighting the wheel just to try and keep the car as straight as possible. He's currently 1/10 behind Kamil Pavlovsky after the first sector. Simonas Urbanas goes 6th fastest and sets equally fast lap time as Martin Svidrek did before. 2.5 tenths down after the second sector is Martin Svidrek, still staying out on the racetrack, still running a little bit faster than he did before. Just needs to hold it all together and finish the lap as he is imagining to do. 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining, so the time in this qualifying session is running out. Dominykas Seičinas still has the time to get back to the pit lane and start another lap. Martin Svidrek made a mistake, so he's slowing down and cooling a little bit off the tires. Kamil Pavlovsky attacking the second corner, which is the Elkonis corner, the name in the Latvian language. I'm not sure what that's translated to. And Kamil Pavlovsky approaches one of the trickiest corners on the racetrack, which is called the bridge corner. The drivers have to be very tight in the mid corner, run just very close to the wall, and on the exit they want to use all the width of the track available, but if they do use a tiny bit too much, they clip the gravel and lose all the speed carried throughout the corner. Kamil Pavlovsky approaching the end of the lap, and he will start his next try in this qualifying session, which he leads at the moment by only 0.05 of a second against his main rival in the semi-finals, Karolis Jovaiša. Kamil Pavlovsky still having the chances to take the first place after the 6 rounds. Only 5 of them counting the overall standings of the drivers. Kamil Pavlovsky did have one bad finish in the second round, so he's still up in the game, even though the championship points look to be a tiny bit lower at this moment. He's still there to take the win in the semi-finals, although that does not matter. 6 top finishers in the overall standings will advance into the finals, where the drivers will challenge each other in some real life tasks. Martin Svidrek takes the 6th place. Kamil Pavlovsky just made a mistake. The time has just run out. Kamil Pavlovsky will not go faster. Karolis Jovaiša approaching the final corner through the straight, and I think Karolis Jovaiša will go faster. Yes, indeed he does. 1 minute 24.9 60 of a second. So Karolis Jovaiša taking the provisional pole position on the very final seconds of the session. And he beats Kamil Pavlovsky by 1 full tenth of a second. Edvinas Žadeikis is still running on the racetrack. Martin Svidrek is trying to attack it too. Edvinas misses some 2 tenths to try and snatch the pole position. And that would be his first pole position in the championship, through turn 12 into turn 13 and off into the straight exit. Edvinas Žadeikis taking a tiny bit too much of a curb, and that will end his try. Simonas Urbanas still staying out on the racetrack. He's currently 7th. Dominykas Seičinas and Marius Kurnitskas. Marius Kurnitskas just ended his try in this session, got back to the pit lane. Simonas Urbanas and Dominykas Seičinas still trying to fight with the car around this Latvian racetrack. You can see Simonas Urbanas going loose through turns 10 and 11, and he will not go faster. So that's the end of the qualifying session. Karolis Jovaiša managed to take the pole position on his very last try around the 3.6 long, 13 corners in total, Bikernieki racetrack. Let's take a final look at the qualifying results. Karolis Jovaiša taking the pole position, Kamil Pavlovsky will start second, Edvinas Žadeikis third, Izagillis and fourth, Juha Mekijopi fifth, Marcin Svidrek sixth, Simonas Urbanas seventh, Dominikas Eičinas eighth, Marius Kurnickas ninth, Haroldas Jototas 10th, Algirdas Sabutis 11th, Dominik Plona 12th, Vytautas Sabutis 13th, Justas Pirnauskas 14th, Eimantas Šiaurys 15th, Justinas Aldukas 16th, Marius Bielskus 17th, Jan Matijas 18th, Roberto Mielgo 19th, Rupe Kurkipea 20th, Henry Mackenzie Friedman 21st, Christopher Gruber 22nd, Simon Palusevski 23rd, Thomas Cheval 24th, Maciej Klus 25th. These are the starting grid positions, and the drivers are already lined out, ready to take the start of the race. A pretty short one, but very important. 20 minutes long race. There should be around 14 or 15 laps completed, but the drivers will suffer from grip loss towards the end of the session. So they will have to be very cautious, and the opening laps are very important due to the high possibility of some close fighting. The drivers may risk to damage the tires. 10 seconds of left until the start of the fourth round of the Dream to Drive semi-finals. Don't forget to vote for your favorite drivers. Lights are out and away we go. Kamil Pavlovsky just missed on this start, and he's already under pressure from Edvinas Žadeikis and Izagilsen. And this was not the dream start of Kamil Pavlovsky. There is a nice fight towards the front of the pack. Karolis Jovaiša slides a little bit into the second corner. He has Edvinas Žadeikis right on his tail. Kamil Pavlovsky is pushed out wide. That was Izagillis who was pushed out wide. Karolis Jovaiša has to go defensive. Edvinas Žadeikis is started the race very aggressively. Still lines right behind Karolis Jovaiša. One of the most important corners. If the drivers miss the apex, they risk to lose a lot of places. Juha Mekijopi just did that, and he's already losing lots of places. Does not have the speed on the straight, and will mix in between a lot of drivers on the first lap. Through the seventh corner, the drivers just completed, and I'm pretty happy to see that there were no major crashes after the start. Juha Mekijopi dropping to 8th. And let's stick around with Kamil Pavlovsky, the driver who started second, the driver who was very fast through all the qualifying session, lost out just at the very back end of it, and he's already attacking Edvinas Žadeikis. Edvinas has to take a tighter line just to stay defensive from the Polish driver. Karolis Jovaiša is looking at his rear view mirrors, and he sees that the drivers behind him are taking a close fight, and Edvinas Žadeikis leaves the doors open. Kamil Pavlovsky almost shunting into Edvinas Žadeikis' backend. Karolis Jovaiša making a mistake under braking, so still, even though he is already some 8/10 in front of Edvinas Žadeikis, he is feeling that huge pressure from behind, and he was forced to make a mistake. And these lockups of the tires are not very good, because the drivers will have lots of problems towards the end of the race, as mentioned before. And someone's off the track. That's Edvinas Žadeikis. He just made a mistake on the bridge corner, so he's dropping positions down to 6th, and he's under pressure from some drivers. There are a lot of drivers who are running very close together. On board with Marcin Svidrek, you can see the drivers in front of him are making mistakes. That was Marius Kurnickas, who just ran a little bit wide on the exit of the 7th corner. Marcin Svidrek going up some places. Karolis Jovaiša having some comfortable 1.5 seconds lead over Kamil Pavlovsky, and still going a little bit faster. Edvinas Žadeikis, after that tiny mistake, lost 4 places in total and has to fight for the 6th place. Juha Mekijopi, his rival from the last race, the driver who ended the race of Edvinas Žadeikis 2 weeks ago with those Formula RSS3 race cars, and these two drivers meet on the racetrack for another battle. Hopefully they will be able to avoid contacts, and Juha Mäkijõpi making huge mistake into the second corner, missing the apex by a tiny, by a huge margin, and has to get back into the fight. 7 tenths behind Edvinas Žadeikis, Iza Gilnisen and Simonas Urbonas fighting for the third place. On board with Simonas Urbonas, who is very defensive in the driving against Iza Gilnisen, the driver from the Netherlands, who is very fast in this championship, has yet to see a successful finish. Simonas Urbonas took a smarter line. Both of the drivers lots of time on the exit. Let's ride on board with Dominika Seičinas. He's currently 5th. Marcin Sviderek is out of the race and into the pit lane. We have a couple of drivers who are already seeing their virtual mechanics, and Marcin Sviderek is the next victim of the Latvian racetrack. Marius Kurnickas losing another couple of places, while Dominika Seičinas just finding and searching for some opportunities on the racetrack to try and overtake the very fast driver from the Netherlands. Running in front of him is Gilsen, who was and is still fighting with Simonas Urbonas for the third place. Both of the drivers losing some precious time. Edvinas Žadeikis fights with Dominika Seičinas, and Edvinas Žadeikis was forced to take the outside line through the second corner. There was not enough grip for Edvinas to try and overtake Dominika Seičinas. Both of the drivers running very close, approaching the bridge corner, the point where Edvinas Žadeikis made that crucial mistake. Has to sit tight behind Dominika Seičinas and will have to try to avoid any further coming mistakes. 15 minutes of the race remaining. The drivers should start seeing the degradation and loss of the rubber on their tires. Edvinas Žadeikis willing to fight back into the higher places. Still has some nice chances to finish as high as on the third place of the podium. Dominika Seičinas taking some tighter lines through the corners, while Haroldas Jototas just made a mistake, lost a couple of places. On board with Edvinas Žadeikis, who's very close on the back end of Dominika Seičinas. A very nice template on the BMW E30 Group A car of Dominika Seičinas. Edvinas Žadeikis might be calmed down a little bit from that sign. You mad, bro? Dominika Seičinas taking a very tight line into the second corner, which compromises the exit of both of the drivers. Still, Edvinas Žadeikis managed to almost complete the overtaking maneuver around the outside of that corner, and in front of Dominika Seičinas. Has to be very careful for the coming corners, try to avoid any mistakes. One of the most crucial parts of the track. Edvinas Žadeikis was a little bit tighter on the exit, just trying to miss to hit that gravel on the outside of the track. He just missed around 1 second in the fight with Dominika Seičinas, finds himself 1.3 seconds behind Iza Gilsen. Karolis Jovaiša comfortably leading the race by over 1 second and 3 tenths, and it looks like Karolis Jovaiša just made a mistake, because the gap decreased to 1 second in a matter of couple of corners. Kamil Pavlovsky still running much faster, and the gap is already less than 1 second, so the fight is still on. Back into the action. Dominika Seičinas running behind Edvinas Žadeikis, still managing to do that pretty fast. Still has to take a good look into his rear view mirrors. Juha Mäkijõpi, the driver from Finland, finds himself right behind Dominika Seičinas. Juha Mäkijõpi just had a nice fight with Edvinas Žadeikis. There were some contacts between the drivers, so they should be a little bit careful on the racetrack. There is a limit of the incident points allowed for the drivers throughout the race. If they exceed the limit, they might get disqualified. Christopher Gruber, the driver from Germany, is the next victim of this particular track. Henry Mackenzie Friedman has just left the race, so 5 retirements already after 9 completed minutes. We're still running on board with Juha Mäki-Jopi and Justinas Saldukas fighting with Haroldas Jotautas, not thinking about the age of the tires. They were 2 times faster than they would in normal conditions, so they have to be very careful. There was a tiny contact between Justinas Saldukas and Haroldas Jotautas in the fight for the 10th place. Karolis Jovysha was 1/10 faster than the 2nd place Kamil Pavlovsky. Kamil still not giving this one up yet. He is dreaming and wishing for the first win in this championship, which might give him some chances to fight for the first place in the overall standings. That's what he came here for. He practiced a lot before this race, tries to run as fast as possible this evening. Justinas Saldukas still trying to go around Haroldas Jotautas, not managing to do that, while Edvinas Žadeikis just found himself running a little bit closer on the driver from the Netherlands, Isaac Gillesen, in the fight for the 4th place, and Simonas Urbanas is still reachable. All those drivers are running pretty close to each other, separated by 2 seconds, and the cards might change a little bit in the coming stages of the 10 remaining minutes of the race. That's the 4th round of the Dream to Drive Championship, the semi-finals, and the drivers are fighting to get into the top 6 places in the overall standings. To go through into the finals, to get the chances to fight for the seat in the Dream to Drive team. Another mistake comes from the race leader Karolis Jovysha, and Kamil Pavlovsky is right there, while Dominykas Eičinas and Juha Mäki-Jopi fight themselves for the 6th place. Juha Mäki-Jopi on the outside, now taking the inside for the coming corner. Dominykas Eičinas runs a little bit more careful and lets Juha Mäki through. Juha clipping the grass on the exit of the bridge corner, allowing Dominykas Eičinas to take that place back. Still not giving up without a fight, although Dominykas Eičinas managed to break a little bit later into the 7th corner and taking the edge over the driver from Finland. The fight will continue. Let's ride on board with Isaac Gillesen. He's closely followed by Edvinas Žadeikis. This is the fight for the 4th place. Isaac Gillesen and Simonas Urbanas matching identical pace at this stage of the race. Edvinas Žadeikis being a tiny bit faster than both of the drivers. Actually, he was half a second faster the last time they crossed the line. Kamil Pavlovsky was 2/10 faster than the race leader. The gap drops down to 7/10 between these 2 leaders. Karolis Jovysha trying to hang on the remaining of the tires. Edvinas Žadeikis making a big mistake and losing the back end under braking. Shifted a little bit too early and created a shift lock on his rear wheels, and that's not the best news for Edvinas Žadeikis. The tire will wear out a little bit faster. The drivers should avoid situations like these. Kamil Pavlovsky running very close on the leader, not giving up and still being able to smell the victory in the 4th round of the Dream to Drive semi-finals. Kamil Pavlovsky is currently 2nd in the overall standings, while Karolis Jovysha is the current leader. Karolis already won all 3 rounds that took place and is looking for another win. Don't forget to vote for your favorite driver. You can see the link on the bottom of the screens. Still 7 minutes of the race remaining. We have a close battle between Karolis Jovysha and Kamil Pavlovsky, and there is a nice battle between Isaac Gillesen and Edvinas Žadeikis. Kamil Pawlowski was almost 3 tenths faster the last time the drivers crossed the line and manages to get the gap down to 5 tenths, creating a lot of pressure for Karolis Jovaiša, forcing him into a lot of mistakes. Izagilisen just made a mistake in the second corner, opened the door. Edvinas Žadeikis was a little bit too far behind to try and pass Izagilisen on that situation. Still running very close to almost pushing the back end of Izagilisen, BMW E30 Group A. The cars from late 80s, which require a lot of driver skills, and at this stage the cars are suffering from a huge loss of the tires, making the drivers sweat a little bit more than they did in the beginning of the race. Kamil Pawlowski running right on the tail of Karolis Jovaiša. Edvinas Žadeikis was pushed a little bit too wide. Still manages to hang on to it, and then there is a nice battle shaping up for the win of the race. Edvinas Žadeikis is still forced to take that outside line throughout the track. This is the best opportunity for Edvinas Žadeikis to take back that 4th place. Crosses the trajectories and goes ahead of Izagilisen, while Karolis Jovaiša is not able to put some nice laps together anymore, and there are still 5 minutes of race remaining. With lots of things capable to change. And finally, this is what Kamil Pawlowski was waiting through all of the season. He had a couple of failures, he had some contacts which did not allow him to finish in the first place. He's not willing to give up. He's back here and looking for that first win in this championship, which would keep his hopes for the win in the overall standings alive. Dominykas Eičinas still fighting Juha Mäki-Jopi, so a lot of fights happening around the track. Izagilisen still running very close on the back end of Edvinas Žadeikis, only 1/10 separating both of the drivers, and both of the drivers are running slower than Simonas Urbonas. Edvinas Žadeikis just made a mistake and lost out to Izagilisen. We're still riding on board with Karolis Jovaiša, who is closely followed by the driver from Poland, Kamil Pawlowski. 4 minutes remaining. Kamil Pawlowski making a big mistake, and what just happened there, it looks like some connection issues for the driver from Poland have ruined his chances in this race where he looked so strong and so competitive. Just we have to wait for a couple of moments, maybe the systems will get back and we will see Kamil Pawlowski still racing on the racetrack. Back in the fight between the Finnish driver and the Lithuanian driver. Dominykas Eičinas finds himself behind Juha Mäki-Jopi one more time, and there are only 3.5 minutes remaining. Kamil Pawlowski is not reappearing on the streams. What a shame. There was a nice battle evolving between the two leaders, and I think that this kind of a loss for Kamil Pawlowski might end his chances in the fight for the first place in the overall standings. Karolis Jovaiša has a comfortable 5.5 second lead against Simonas Urbonas, while Dominykas Eičinas taking the inside line, approaching the 7th corner in the fight for the 5th place with Juha Mäki-Jopi. Juha still holding the slight edge over Dominykas Eičinas and manages to stay in front. Izagilisen is having to go defensive one more time. Edvinas Žadeikis, after a bigger mistake, is right on his tail, and it looks like Izagilisen is facing some bigger problems. Edvinas Žadeikis was able to complete that move around the outside of the track. Izagilisen making a mistake under braking into turn 2. That was not a big issue, but still Izagilisen still has to give the position to Edvinas Žadeikis due to the issues that he's facing with the grip of his tires with the tarmac. 4 tenths behind Edvin Žadeikis. Still lots of things might change. We have already seen Edvin Žadeikis completing that overtaking maneuver over Isak Gilsen, but Edvin Žadeikis made another mistake. Isak is looking to run a little bit better when he finds himself running behind another driver, although just made a mistake on the exit of the 7th turn, making the gap 5 tenths bigger, and it looks like Isak Gilsen is facing huge tire grip problems around the track of Bikernieki. Karolis Jovaiša completing the final corner and should start what should be the final lap of this evening. That's the 14th lap, and Karolis Jovaiša is looking for another win in the championship. 4 wins in a row should promise him the win in the overall standings. Isak Gilsen not being able to run closer to Edvin Žadeikis. We have a little fight for the 7th place between Dominik Plona and Justas Pirinauskas, but what a shame for Kamil Pavlovsky, whom we lost towards the end of the race due to some connection issues. You would not see these kind of problems and troubles in real life, but in sim racing these things happen, and the drivers face these unwilling and unforeseen conditions and have to retire. On board with Juha Mäki-Jopi, he's still trying to go defensive against Dominikas Seičinas, and Dominikas makes a mistake, and it looks like that's the end of the fight for a better place. Dominikas Seičinas should not be able to catch Juha Mäki-Jopi in the fight for the 5th place, while Karolis Jovaiša completes the final corner, exits it without any problems, crosses the lines and takes the 4th win in a row. Simonas Urbanas should finish 2nd, with Edvin Žadeikis running 3rd, having Isak Gilsen right on his tail. Juha Mäki-Jopi manages to stay in front of Dominikas Seičinas to finish the race 5th, and Dominik Plona, the driver from Poland, finishes 7th with Justas Pirinauskas on his back end. Haroldas Jotutas comes home 9th, while Marius Kurnitskas should finish 10th after some contacts and mistakes that he faced in the opening laps of the race. Vytautas Sabutis finished 11th, Justinas Saldukas 12th, Marius Bielskus crosses the line 13th, Paluševski finishes 14th, Roberto Mielgo still fighting Rupe Kurkipa, should safely finish 15th. Kurkipa having some damaged car finishes 16th. Tomas Cheval 17th. Algirdas Sabutis, one of the Sabutis brothers, will cross the line 18th, and the last car that is still circling around the Bikernieki racetrack is Maciej Klus. He should finish the race 19th, and you can see how damaged his BMW is. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was the 4th round of the Dream to Drive semi-finals. Let's take a final look at the results. Karolis Jovaiša taking the 4th win in a row. Simonas Urbanas finishes 2nd, and Edvinas Žadeikis manages to take that final place on the podium for some very important points in the fight for the top 6 places in the overall standings. We have some mission to complete this evening, to take a quick look at the driver of the day voting results, and we can congratulate Karolis Jovaiša for winning the results with 55.5% in total. Haroldas Jotutas was picked out as the 2nd driver, while Dominikas Seičinas is picked out as the 3rd. So, after a nice battle, which was only 20 minutes long, we might call this an end for the 4th round. The next round takes place in 2 weeks of time. We don't know yet what combination it will stand off. Neither the car or the track are known for the organizers or the participants. We will know that in 1 week time. Thanks for staying with us, and I wish you for a nice coming evening.
Ko reikia, kad verslas augtų greičiau? Aiškiai girdėti savo klientus, turėti tinkamus įrankius darbui ir laiku užtikrinti reikiamus resursus. O gal svarbiausia, kad jums nereikėtų tuo rūpintis? Palikite tai mums. Mes pasirūpinsime jūsų ryšio, darbo vietos ir IT sprendimais. Susisiekime. Telia, kad verslas augtų greičiau.